Let's try that again. Maybe I can actually get my interface to work at some point, right? There we go. Yay! Yay! Okay, good. Well, having done that, welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips. One of those days with me, your host, Anne, Disembodied Hands, Quinty, Disembodied Beard, John, and at least my freaking face cam is working today. Hello, everybody. Oh, it's still snowing. Everybody's getting hit. Yeah, my brother got hit with snow this morning. My nephew is off school in Wisconsin. So yeah, the snow, it will not reach us, but it's bleary today. I don't know if we're supposed to get rain. I should check that. Although I've got CrossFit tonight, so yay, I don't have to go out and walk in it. Yeah, a little bit. Looks like it might rain soon, actually. Looks like a very high % chance of rain. And then maybe some sun, but we'll see. Yeah, some rain in our forecast. At least it's a normal winter and we're not droughting. Hello, everybody. So we're going to work on... Wong. Yay, all my face cam settings stayed what they were supposed to stay. Amazing. Amazing. I wonder. I kind of want to push my luck and see... Okay. Kind of want to push my luck here. Hold on. Pushing my luck. Pushing luck. I'm going to try to swap something. Let me see if it works. Yay! Good. Except now it's big. I was just trying to make the face cam work the way I want it to. Dang it. Why won't it work? Why won't it work? It never works. Never, ever works. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. Silly face cam. It's just, yeah. It's like that, guys. It'd be like that. Alright, we're just gonna stick there. Alright. I tell you. Slowly ironing out kinks. Slowly. Very, very slowly ironing out kinks. I just did that, Zachariah. No. This is a problem between OBS and the face cam. Where it resets and it wants to go onto virtual face cam, but it shouldn't go onto virtual face cam because then it lags. Trust me. I'm there. I know what to do. It's just having a moment. It's mostly better today, but it likes to go onto the virtual face cam, which causes lag. So I'm wondering if the video I shot yesterday is just going to be crap. Yeah, so we'll see. I'm irritated at it. It's better. It did need a little firmware update, so I did that, and it was better afterwards. But it's still having some moments. It definitely is. I'm trying to figure out a place to stuff this water effects. I think I'm gonna try to stuff it here. There. Stay. Okay. Yeah, face cam. Exactly. Oh, it's an animated Luca. When did we get that? When did we get the animated Luca instead of the just Luca? That's new. It seems new, or I just haven't seen it. Alrighty, we're going to do some visual reference work here. Let me look up a Google image search on small waterfalls. And go images and try to find something that's like what I want. Kinda. I'm looking for a small cascade of falls. There we go. That's kind of close. I think it's just gonna wanna, okay. Maybe that. Yeah, that's kinda it. The problem is you never know what's been photodoctored, right? Because almost all this stuff has been. Yeah, and that's just not gonna... That's not gonna be a high-res image, not at all. So the thing is, I made the water blue, and really it should have a lot of dark in it, because of, if you look at waterfalls, there's a lot of dark, right? And you see that there is a lot of light. I'm gonna keep this one, I'm just gonna click it and use it a bit. in my images. There. Saved photos. And now we can just go over and photo it. There we go. Yeah, so we'll just kind of use this as a map, but I need a lot of dark color in there. And a lot of times the colors that show up are browns, greens, and then of course you've got the blue skyshine. You're not getting a lot of that here because overhanging trees, but I'm going to keep a lot of the blue nonetheless in my stuff. We're going to work in some maybe a dark brownish green a little bit into the water to make it look like this. So oh, he changed it, just took effect today. Nice. Nice. Good for Luca. Animated. Wow. He's moving up in the world. All right. So I am going to grab, need some darker. I'm going to grab Elven Green and maybe black and brown. Let me see if I can find my black and brown. Maybe my brown liner, because I want it to be a little transparent. I don't want to fight with it. And that hopefully will make something dark enough. Yeah, hopefully you guys keep power. Power outages are always such a pain. Alright, I'm going to pop some of this in my palette. I'm going to try just 2 drops of brown liner, 2 drops of Elven Green, and see how that looks. And I need some white as well. And I want to get out my Surf Aqua so that I can do some blending. So I need to find out where I stuffed it. Where did I stuff you, Surf Aqua? Oh, I do have bright turquoise. I should have used that yesterday. Oh well. Oh well. No bright turquoise for us. When did I get that? I must have ordered it knowing that I didn't have the old HD one. Maybe we'll use that for glazing our Dragonborn. Yeah, if you don't have many trees, that is a good thing. We have lots of trees right tangled up with our power lines, which is why we lose power a lot. But we haven't so far this year, or in this winter, I should say. The year is young. And then I want some white for those streaky highlights on the water. Streaky highlights. So the shine. I need the white for the shine. There it is. Now I can see from this photograph that they have absolutely used a time lapse to make it look all pretty, which is kind of my annoyance. I like, and that's the thing with waterfall photographs. A lot of people will do that, and it won't really give you an idea, like, of how the water actually looks, because you get that fuzzed out streak looking thing instead of the actual water. Because you kind of have to figure out how it would look with the different droplets splashing down and stuff like that. So it is what it is. We have to just deal with it. Okay. Yeah, you feel it buffeting at that was our house in Texas. You could really feel it. Alrighty, let's see what we can do with this. I might want something a little bit more bluey. Bluey, that's a technical term. I might want my ultramarine shadow. Yeah. Just because the blue tones in the water are actually cooler than the Surf Aqua, so. Morning Slayer. I'm just going to mix a little bit of this ultramarine. I'm not going to use a lot of it. Just kind of assembling my watercolors here so I can muck about. And we will be using some water effects, but we're going to be using very limited water effects. And I'm thinning everything about 2:1, just for starters, because I've already got a base coat down. and I just want to start mucking around with some colors. But we want to put our colors down first and then do our little like splooshy scenic water effects. I want to rinse or mix these up a bit. And I think my brown green is about right. It's a very it's a very olivey color. Dark olivey color. But that should be good for those shadows. And I think I'm just going to mix a little bit of the ultramarine into my Surf Aqua. Give it a little bit more of a blue tone. There we go, and then I want to keep the white pretty pure. So I'm going to just mix up this ultramarine separately. And then we'll mix up the white. Alrighty, so you can see I've this has gone bluer. Obviously there's green stuff under here, so that's shifting the color a little bit of the water, quote unquote. But we're going to use these colors and switch back and forth and try to do something that at least kind of feels like waterfall, the way that the water flows. So we will see what we can do. First of all, I want to take my dark color and kind of do kind of a lining around the outside, and also looking at the rocks and stuff that are next to the water there. I maybe want to do a little bit more brown color on my rocks when I get there. I'm gonna put just a little bit. And I haven't done it this way before, so we'll see how this works. But I'm going to kind of just look at the dips in my water, quote unquote, and just kind of try to figure out how it would look and block that in to kind of suggest more more watery shapes. And it's going to be really rough and blocky. And I can blend it a little bit with that Surf Aqua. I want it to be not quite so terrible. Yeah, it's very close. I mean, because both are shiny. That's why, Slayer. That's why they're close, is because both are shiny. Are you trying to put an artificial shine into what you're doing? I'm going to put a little bit more of this blue, this Surf Aqua mixed with the ultramarine. And I'm going to try to make some kind of ripples in the water with white to kind of show how the water is flowing. But yeah, the difference is that metal is opaque and hair is transparent. That's the difference between the two. So I'm going to stipple these lines that I am bringing in instead of doing that brushed look that the photo had, just to suggest those droplets. I'm going to try to keep in line with the way the water's flowing. If I feel like I've mucked it up a little bit, I can go back and kind of do some aqua over the top of it. We want to not... Yeah, I think that Christine's hair is really, really good. I think that there's a lot of hair out there that makes it harder to paint hair instead of easier. The reason I chose that model is because it does give you like kind of... It does have some areas where the strands are thinner, and I was able to talk about that. It's hard to sculpt good hair in 3D sculpting programs, or it can be, is what I've been told. So sometimes you don't have that much. I'm going to darken the bottom to make it look like there's more space behind this area. So wherever you put your real darks, that's going to say that like maybe there's a cutout behind this rock. And so when you've got this dark area here, you can double down on that and make it look really dark right there around the fall. So it looks like it recedes behind the fall. And then at the bottom, there's a bit of spray, which is also going to be stippled. And this is the area that we'll probably use a little bit of water effects to bring up. And I'm going to take the spray and do lines that suggest the flow. I'm going to grab a little bit of my darker color and put that in there, the brown green. But now that I'm actually doing this, I'm going to keep that brown green actually really understated on these level surfaces. I'm just going to use them to disrupt the aqua bit. The nice thing about that hair, and the reason, the other reason I chose that model, is that it allowed me to demonstrate the rules really clearly. So that my purpose in doing this kind of general video is not necessarily to teach you just how to paint that model or a model just like it, but to teach you kind of the rules of painting that thing in general so that you can adapt to other models. I'm going to take some of this white, kind of follow these channels, and see how that looks. It looks pretty good. We're losing a lot of our blue and aqua, but then there isn't a lot necessarily. I'm going to kind of blend these together a little bit. It's less linear up there at the top of the falls. Yeah, I mean, if you do it per model, eventually people will learn stuff, and it gives you more of a crutch to follow, but it can be hard to adapt it to a different model then if you're not also teaching kind of generalities about how to tackle such a subject. Stippling real fine to bring this together. Yeah, I didn't really tackle the braid because I did a how to paint braids a while ago. So, and also the video was already getting long, so I didn't want to do that. I can always tackle that again in the future sometime, but mostly because a braid is easy. A braid is easy because the hair has been bound so tightly together that it ceases a little bit to show that transparency factor. So braids are much easier in some ways than hair. You're really spot highlighting at the top of each braid or the point where it sticks out if the braid is big enough. So there's a big white sploosh at the bottom of every fall. And then that white we can just trail into the water to make it look like it's rushing. See how we're doing that with kind of that chevron shape? We're taking this and we're directly linking it to that motion to get that to work. I'm going to connect these guys down to the bottom because the water has to connect. Even if we're dropleting it, still needs to come all the way down. I'm going to take a real quick look at my photo. I need to probably make those streams more irregular, so I'm going to do that in a second. I just want to double check it. So yeah, so definitely where the water is thicker, the streaks are whiter, and they do have different widths. So I'm going to grab my white and a little bit of my Surf Aqua, mix a light Surf Aqua, and combine a couple of these over here to make a wider flow, just disrupt the regularity. And I'm going to go straight up to white and imply that the stream is a little thicker by putting it white all the way down. And then I'm going to double down on the white down here. Because I'm using thinned white, I'm going to have to build up a couple layers here. Morning, David. We are painting a waterfall this morning. Because it's all chill and stuff. That's why. Not chill for me. I haven't painted. Actually, I have never painted a waterfall like this. I just decided to do it. I've done waterfalls in pastel, which are very easy, especially if you're using that soft time-lapse water. So we're going to bring up that highlight again. And one thing to remember is that we used NMM on this model. And that's why I'm not just using like gloss or thick water effects. If I'd used metallics, then sure, maybe I'd be all over this with that. I still would probably do some underpainting though to give it the color and the suggestion before I put a thick gloss coat over it. But because we went NMM here, we're not actually using gloss. We will use water effects. We're going to actually use that to build up a texture, a foamy texture that is, you know, in line with what we want to portray, but we're going to paint over that foamy texture with white so that it doesn't shine. I just like the stuff that I can do. And with water effects, honestly, with falls this small, the water effects won't be called upon to do any real heavy lifting, but it still may be able to let me do a splash effect or two, which I'll appreciate. So you can see how we've lost a lot of our aqua, but not a ton, and it still is conveying a watery kind of effect. And our strongest white down here. I want to make sure that I don't forget the edges. All right. So now we've got this final fall, which goes down a bit and then it bounces out a bit. So let's get our dark greeny brown. Notice I'm not taking it very dark, but I'm just using it to define what you're looking at. So let's put a fair amount of that in here, like so. A little bit down here, but for the most part you're not going to see a lot of it down here. And then we're going to mix that with a little bit of our blue and bring it down like this. And then a lot of this is going to be foam, so we might paint some dark over our aqua here. And blend that a bit. That also lets us suggest the shadow of the rock. So I've actually been reading a physical book for once instead of my Kindle in the evenings, which has been interesting. I do need my reading glasses, and sometimes I'm frustrated that I can't like take the book everywhere with me because obviously I need adequate light to read it. But it's nice to read a book again instead of a screen. Just going to scrape some of this paint off here. It's a little bit of green stuff that I can just scrape off with the tip of my knife. Just neaten things up a little bit. I am totally uncaffeinated this morning, as usual lately. All right, so we've got that set up. Now let's get that water looking watery down here. And again, we kind of want a little kind of up and down line effect here on the where the water comes rushing over this stone. And we want to trail those streamers of water down the front. And we're going to do a little splash here, stippling, and bring the water down, and it's going to bulge out a little bit here again. But you can see how putting that dark in defines each fall, right? So we gotta, this one we have to adjust a little bit, I think. There's a little bit of it going a little bit too much. And I want it down a little bit more over here. It's very smooth here, so possible that I'll just like kind of brush over that area a little bit and not make it as dark. Kind of assess how abrupt your falls are, and the least abrupt where it's just kind of like skating over the surface before it goes out again, you maybe don't want to make it quite as dark. So then you can use your Surf Aqua mixture to kind of pin over that a little bit and leave more of a sploosh here at the end. This is very like freehand and also very like texture painting. It's you're trying to paint what you see. Notice trends. It doesn't actually take like expert level. Obviously, I've never done this before and I'm not a 2D painter, but when you observe where the white lights should be on the edge of each falls and at the foot, then it's just a matter of making those stipply lines to kind of and putting the shadows in the right place. That's a little better. Not a lot of splash here because we're just going right down the front to this bottom part where we're going to make another white band right before it dips down into there. And I might not even need this band of shadow here because it's hitting the water like right below it. But so I might end up just totally stippling over that. We'll see. Because this white, this is going to come out. It's kind of sprays out in kind of a star pattern. So it hits the bottom and then it goes in all directions, right? So you want to see that kind of star pattern. Sploosh-wise. And it's going to cause ripples, so you can kind of use those to inform your placement of wavelet lighting. Remember, guys, that next Monday and Tuesday I am out for my medical test stuff. So next Monday and Tuesday I will not be on because you guys don't really need to see me being all hangry for my colonoscope prep on Monday, since I will be on a clear liquids only diet, and we know how much that is fun. Yeah, before it was just like a thing, and now it looks more like water. Now we have to up our game on the rocks now. We need a lot more variation on the rocks to match this. Remember to connect your little streamers of water over the shadows. To break up those shadows more. So it looks like a lot of light coming down, and for something my camera is just not showing. If I bring something white into the frame, you guys will be able to see it better there. So you can see my splooshes. Let's get down close so you can see that this is really not super hard to do, but it's the important parts are the white at the foot of every falls and the white at the top of every falls. Foot, top, and the fact that you connect them with those streamers of water. I have some white miso already in I don't have it in the packets. I actually have the white miso paste in a jar in my fridge. I actually, this isn't nearly as bad as the old colonoscopy prep that I've done. But I've got lots of bone broth. That's what I like. Because it's protein, which normally, like, the problem with colonoscopy prep is that all it does is feed you carbs, and I can't do that. It'll upset my gut. So it's going to be a lot of bone broth and a lot of, this is the funniest thing also. Like, for those of you who have ever heard about the keto diet, and you know that it has a lot of fat content in it, right? I actually asked my colonoscopy prep lady, like, last time. I was like, well, what about fat? And she's like, what? I'm like, can I have a tablespoon of olive oil? And she's just like, didn't get it. She's like, who would do that, right? But the fact is that fat helps you feel full, and fat was a major component of my diet. And of course I could have a spoonful of olive oil if I wanted it, because, like, it's not gonna leave anything in the colon. So it's just, but they just never. Oh, I would never. Artificial sweeteners are out, Anara. They're just out. Like, the only thing I can do is, like, stevia and monk fruit. Those are okay. And a tiny bit of erythritol, but all that stuff is loaded with sugar-free. I wouldn't want to do it. Like, I don't even want to go there. Like, I'm much happier just staying with savory for the whole day, except for maybe a little bit of my usual stevia monk fruit sweetener in my tea. Like, but yeah, Jell-O's, ugh. I had such a bad reaction in the hospital when they put me on an all-liquid diet after my my last procedure, and they gave me, like, sugar-free Jell-O and stuff like that, and it was, like, bad. Like, I've never had such a bad reaction. So yeah, that's a no. Sorry. No, I don't want any. Yeah, Nope, I don't want any sugar. I'm a very low carb Ann these days because you know what? It just makes me feel better. And with the artificial sweeteners mostly being cut out, it just means I'm doing less sweet stuff in general, and it's okay. I won't crave it. I appreciate the suggestions though. For anybody else who's doing it, make notes. For anybody else who might be going in for one of these, because those are great suggestions if your gut will tolerate that stuff. I'm just a weirdo. Just a weirdo. So we've got our splooshes. I'm liking how this is looking, actually. I think I want to start doing the water effects. So let's try our water effects, see if we can get that to work. Oh. Yeah. I wish that more doctors would adopt the colonoscopy prep there are some doctors out there who are pretty much saying, you know, this is all kind of dumb, and really you can have white bread, like, because it's like, if it's really white, no fiber, right? No bits. But if you need that chewy thing, the whitest of white bread is actually okay, because it's not going to stain your colon. It's going to all dissolve. It's just like simple flour. White flour is just like simple sugars. Not something that I could do a lot of course, because it's glutinous and it's carbs, but that helps. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to try to go it and see. I've not done bone broth before, and I'm looking forward to that because that'll help a lot. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if I can manage. I know that you need to choose something is real, so we'll see, but we'll see how it goes. But I really like those doctors who are just like, you know what, this extreme stuff is kind of silly, because there is stuff out there that you can eat that really isn't gonna, like, stain your colon. I wish those doctors would, like, get in command and just, like, tell everybody to stop being overreactive. And apparently they've done tests, and in some of them, like, the people who are allowed to eat some white bread with their colonoscopy prep, like, their colons actually look better because it's more like what the colon is used to. So it's interesting. It's interesting stuff. It hasn't caught on mainstream yet. Kind of hoping it will at some point. All right, just reinforcing my whites here a little bit. That's good, Twisted Oma. So I'm just going to strengthen my white underneath here. And now let us grab some water effects. All right, so we're going to have to work with very small amounts of this stuff. And we're going to work with Woodland Scenics water effects. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab a miniatures blister pack, so a piece of plastic, to squeeze some out on, and then we're going to transfer it over with a needle or a, oh, there we go. I could probably use this one. That's holding my bases, so maybe I keep extra blister packs back here just for this kind of thing. No, I wouldn't either. I did try it once when I read about it, and I kept it to like just 2 pieces for the day, but it did help. And it wasn't too much. I just don't want to chance it these days. My gut seems more sensitive nowadays. All right, so we're gonna grab one of these, and we don't even have to use we could just use the top of it. We can just turn it this way. I just need a platform to squeeze out the goo onto. And I've had it sitting with its nose down. But yeah, it seems like nobody eats really just white bread anymore, right? But apparently it's something you can have on colonoscopy. All right. So it's really thick. It's goopy. You can see it there. I just want to get the kind of dried stuff out of the nozzle, and then I'll squeeze it out. I probably need to open this sucker up and put some water in it, just like I do with all my other pastes and gels. Could also look at Liquitex and see if they have a clear. Yeah, because this is definitely thick. So actually I'm going to see if I can open up the top. I don't think I ever have, but I kind of assume you can. I might need to get a... This is so old and it's so stuck together, I don't know if I'd be able to. But we'll just... I think I'll store it upside down and just hope that it holds out. I mean, it's not like it's super expensive stuff. I think this bottle cost me $10. And, like, it's been years. Literally years and years and years of use. So, I'll just put that in there. And this will be good enough. Let me get a pokey tool. Just use your average pokey tool here. Yeah, when my gut was really upset when I had the last gastro crab I had, I did have some white bread. Because I had grilled cheese sandwiches with eggs. Egg and grilled cheese sandwiches are really a favorite. Multigrain seeded sourdough, yeah. Yeah, this is something I think you'd only buy if you were specifically buying it for that purpose. So I'm just going to grab some of this stuff. And I'm going to put it down here. I'm going to try to get a little closer here. It's hard to see, but you see that glob of it there. So I'm grabbing globs with my pokey tool. Now what I want to do here is just make some texture at the bottom. And because it does that whole stringing out thing, I can make splashing texture by guiding it. So by guiding that little string out, I don't want to leave it out on the edge there though. I don't know how much I'll be able to actually effectively do, but I'm going to try. And I want to get some more, just want definitely that foamy texture here. And now as this cures, we're going to do more with it. Because as it cures, we're going to be able to kind of manipulate it and pull it up more. So like here, I'm just trying to get like a little sploosh. See the sploosh? Little sploosh loop. I do definitely want to not have it on the edge of the base. So I'm trying to pull some of that off. There we go. But getting things like that little sploosh effect there, that's what I'm aiming for here. I just want a little extra dimension so that it feels right. Now I'm putting this on thin enough that it's going to start curing very fast. So as it's starting to kind of set up a little, I'm going to start poking it. I'm going to get a little bit more on the tops here though. Just a little bit of, and this is where we can kind of pull it down the front of these streams and make it look a little bit more solid. So we'll grab some here. And we're just pretty much just kind of gooping it down, making a thicker 3D streamer of water there. And then letting that go down into here. The challenge can be finding a tool fine enough, because these needles are pretty blunt. Let me see if I can find a, yeah, there we go. Got a probe. This narrow little sculpting tool. Grab some of that with that. Guide it along the bottom there. And it does take a little bit to set, so you have some time here. So don't worry too much about whether you've gotten too much on or whatever. Just, you can always pull a little bit off if you want. Mostly we're just trying to get, and this is why I don't like whole waterfalls built with this stuff, because it is hard to work with. But it also can give you cool effects. Get a little bit of 3D on the bottom of that and that big streamer of water. And this does dry clear. But if you mess it up as it's curing and like make it kind of pull it up and pull it apart, you can create something that actually is a little bit more opaque, and then you can paint it. So getting a little bit more of that water up on the top here. We don't have a lot of room. It's just more of a flat fall. So I'm just going to put just a little bit of texture in there by gooping this on there. So just a little bit extra up there. So I like that thick streamer of water. I think that works really well. Again, it's hard to see on the actual thing, but we've got that streamer of water turning into a big sploosh here that I've just dragged a little bit further along those white streamers. And we've got mostly that big fuzz at the bottom there. Just a little bit of texture here. There wouldn't be much. And of course, to keep it all in scale, you don't want to go too crazy. But our foot of the waterfall now has actual 3D foam on it. I think I'm going to grab some and a little bit more down the front here. Yes, to the mouth of the beast. Yep, that was probably Michelle Farnsworth teaching that class. She does that with the Yoo-hoo putty, the Yoo-hoo glue stuff. That would be, the Yoo-hoo would be better for this, would be better than this stuff for Drool, I think, although you could probably make this work. It's just a little, I think, easier to work with that way, and I think it strings better. But you can use that stuff. I mean, people have used this stuff for that sort of thing. Just making more floof, more sploosh down here. Now we're going to have to let it dry. While we let this dry, because I tested it and it's still pretty wacky, it's drying faster because it's I'm putting so little on, but it's still going to take a little time. So I'm going to gloop up a little bit of these little sprays, give them some texture. Little bits of spray. You can see those little teeth kicking up. I don't want that. I want actually them to lie down a little bit. So I'm going to go over the top and pull them down so we don't have those little teeth. All right. But that'll let us texture our water a bit. Oh, that would drive me but nuts too. All right, I think that's all I want to do with the texture. I think those little touches are good enough. We have some actual 3D there at the bottom. You can see it. And a little bit here at the top and then the center as well. So I'm going to let that dry. I can discard my little goop pile, my blister pack. Make sure all my tools are cleaned off that I was using. Yeah, okay. This stuff dries very rubbery, so it's very easy to clean off. If you did forget and missed some of it on one of your tools, you could just use a knife and scrape it off, just like with everything else when I'm cleaning the pokey tools. There we go. It is Woodland Scenics Water Effects. So it is made for particularly doing this sort of thing. I find it to be pretty versatile. Like, there are things that working with is very similar to working with the Liquitex modeling paste. Like, it is a little bit persnickety, but if you're patient with it and understand that you have a while to work with it, so, I mean, you can always wipe it off and put a new layer on until you get the effect you want. Once you understand its, like, strengths and limitations, I reach for it every once in a while. Mostly if I want to do like foam on water, that's what I like to use it for. Or icicles, it's perfect for icicles. It's amazing for icicles. You can get very realistic looking icicles from it. There we go. I'm going to clean off my pokey tool. It was offending me. Now it's nice and sharp. I had too much paint caked up on it. Alright. I think it's about time to attach him. I'm thinking. He's going to hide some of the water, but I tried to not put as much attention on that water. Alright. Yeah, I think it's time to actually apply this guy. I think I'm going to pin. Then we'll do the rocks and foliage, or do the grass and stuff, but I want him in place, obviously, so that I can do all my foliage around him. Pin vise, where's my wire? There's my wire. Yeah, any splash effects, it works fine for. It's really what it's made for. Alrighty. I'm going to grab some wire, and I'm just going to snip it off. So we'll go back out here. Look. Set that over there. Got my wire. Snip off a piece. Don't really care if I waste a bunch because I've got an entire spool of it that I've had for years and I still have a ton of it. This is brass wire for beading. It is a 0.51 millimeter, 24 gauge. Yeah, 24 gauge. And it fits my number 75 drill bit perfectly. Alright, where do I want to pin this sucker? He's going to be... This foot is probably the better one to pin. This one is kind of projecting a little bit more. And it's like this is cutting in, so I don't want to have my pin go down and show. So I think I'm going to do the toe of his boot and just go through over there, and that'll be a little bit better. So I have to be very careful in pinning through the boot because obviously this is plastic, and so you're going to drill through it really fast. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a drill into the foot itself. And this is where having a wire that's a really good fit for your drill bit can be very handy. You don't need much depth. If I did punch through this, or if I do punch through this, then I'm going to just touch it up with putty and clip off the wire close. But I'm going to be testing this as I go to see how much of this wire will go in. And once I can get it to sit firmly, it's okay, but it needs a little bit more. It's got a lot of, it's also, when you're doing plastic like this, a softer plastic, it's prone to getting like plastic threads jammed into that opening. So sometimes you have to put the drill in and pull it out several times just to get that stuff out of there. And it just hit the top of the foot there, and I saw it hitting the top of the foot, so I pulled out real quick. And what we can do then is we can, there's a little bit of plastic sticking up. I'm going to take that off, kind of pull it over. This is the danger, but it's easy to touch this up. And I'd rather have a firm seating for the drill. So it's just a tiny little hole, and this is the good thing about doing tiny drill bits. Is this tiny little hole. And because it's plastic, it really does not want to insert into that hole. But this is really firm. So I didn't even need to go to the top, which is good. So now we're going to clip it off, but we're not going to clip off as much as you might think, because we're going to drill really far into this cork. So let's do that. Oh, I poked myself with the wire in the finger. That happens. All right, so we know that we want our foot to be on that area, and I'm going to guess that it's about here. Now I'm going to drill down. And the cork is really, really soft. Really soft. So you can just punch her right through it, really. So you hit something that's harder, or you hit the limit of your drill bit. So for this, that's about where I'm hitting base. So at this point, I could continue to drill into that base a bit. And I'm going to look at the length of the wire and the length of my drill bit, and I'm going to say I need to trim off some of that wire. We're going to test. No Cushiari, that doesn't work because this foot, the heel is lifted and it's going a little bit too close to the water. I chose not to do that on purpose. The other foot, I could have done that, and you know, if it's what I can, I could do that, right? If that works for you, my worry here was that this foot is hanging over the edge and this edge cuts in. So if I would have done this, I would have not been able to sink my wire very much into the cork. I would much rather just risk having a little tiny hole on top of the foot, which is so easy to touch up and totally hide, which we'll do in just a second. All right, I need to trim a little bit more of it off. Now I can see this though. But yeah, so his heel actually goes almost over the water here, and the other foot hangs off. So I didn't want to risk that, the positioning on that. So I'd much rather do this foot, even with that risk. Because it's such a tiny thing. For me, it doesn't matter very much. It's so easy to touch that up. All right, so I need a little bit more taken off of my wire. But yes, if you have the ability, if your base is positioned correctly and you aren't going to punch through really thin layers, then yeah, absolutely start at the heel and drill up. But you don't need a lot of connection point, though. Yeah, I was lifted in so kind of over the water a little bit, so. Yeah, you can get lucky. Even with the cheapest sable, you can get lucky. Because sometimes they really are. There we go. Ah, when I pulled it out. That's where my clippers are like older and more beat up than the ones I bought for David. There. Now I do want to glue this, so I want to test fit it first. Yeah, it's perfect. Stands perfectly flat on there. The heel is still raised, and the foot on the other side is good. Composition. Is good. Yep, only one. It's a display model twistodoma. Like, frankly, if you drop this onto a cement floor, you're probably going to lose the sword. You're probably going to have it shatter. I just want it to be firmly on the base so that if somebody picks it up by the model, it's going to be okay. And the base is so lightweight, you should be fine. But you don't, I'm going to glue the other foot. I'm just not going to pin it. If you want to pin both feet, you can. I don't consider it necessary. Like, I tend to minimize my pinning. I used to pin everything, but with display models, it often doesn't matter. If you drop the model hard enough, it's gonna break, no matter what you've done to it. Especially with the cork, which is not the most durable of materials. So, this will survive a fall onto carpet once I've pinned the one foot and glued the other, I'm pretty sure. Anything else, no guarantees. But that's true with any miniature, right? You drop it, you risk breakage. As Cornico well knows, because her cat keeps throwing her minis off the table. All right, now we're going to grab our glue. I'm going to use my applicator tip with this. And on the other foot, I think I'm actually going to use gel. But for the pinning one, I need it to be to work with capillary action for the pin. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to pinning, use your own comfort points. I'm very comfortable with just pinning one leg. Like, I know that there's only a certain amount of strength that pinning is going to give you. Pull out. We get our glue and we're going to put it back in. Yeah, so actually there's two connecting points, but only one pin is essentially what I'm coming down to. I definitely want to pin one. I'm just going to hold this with these. Get it back in that hole. Pick up with my fingers, make sure that it's nice and solid in there. Good job. Now I'm going to grab my gel glue and do the other side of the other foot. I'm using the gel on this other foot because it's going to And actually I used the gel kind of around the toe of this foot, although it's got plenty of glue, so maybe we'll see. But essentially, the more liquid the glue, the more it's going to soak into the cork and not really bond things. So the super glue on the one side here that I'm using, I'm very much using for the pin. That works. Got our model actually on the base. But yeah, I mean, I always tell people, if you want to pin more, pin more. If it makes you feel better, do it. Who knows? Maybe it'll actually hold the model together. The thing there that I noticed, though, is just like I said with like the sword. When you pin a lot of things and then the model drops, the thing that breaks is the thing you couldn't pin. It's just the part that, you know, the arm sticking out or the shield or the sword sticking out, you know. So it doesn't totally protect your model from breakage, but, you know, do as much as you feel you need to securely stick the model to the base. With this model, like, it's going to hand travel to Texas, it's going to be handed to Ron, and it's going to end up in the Reaper Gallery. So it's like, it's not going to be shipped. Like, if I was shipping this model, then I might have considered a short pin on the other side as well. Because shipping takes a toll, right? Even though I know how to wrap my models these days, just to be, like, more secure. So base it also on what you're going to be doing with the model. If you're shipping it, if it's going to be gamed with, any of those things, right? But if you're hand carrying it to somebody who's going to put it on a shelf and leave it be, then, you know, there's not a lot of risk there. And let's see, what are we doing next? Let me think. Okay, I think I want to put some grass on this, and then we're going to bring the rocks up in line with, depending on how the grass looks. I've got a nice flat spot there. I've got a little bit of flat down there. I've saved a little ridge of ground over here for more grass to go on, and even a little bit back here. I could put a little bit off on this little area here. So it's static grass time. Some of these areas would be okay with tufts. I tend not to be a tuft user so much. I use them here and there. They can get overused if you just tuft all over the place. If you group them up into masses, they look a lot better. Some of this area over here, it might make sense to use tufts because you've got just a little ledge of material here, and a little tuft would work fine right there. But let me see what I've got. I want to use definitely like a spring green grass, but I want to go a bit darker green because I want to always dry brush my static grass. Oh dear. I have so many webcams. Alrighty. So I want, maybe it's Swamp Tuft. Swamp Tuft is a little bit of a darker green. It's a darker yellow green. Jungle Tuft is more of a medium green. This could fit the bill. You don't have much room to dry brush up from here because it is a lighter grass, so it doesn't look as good when you dry brush it. Let's see here. What else do I have? That one's too wintry. That one, these are the dark ones. These could be good, but not on, I think, not on a springtime model. Oh, there we go. Wilderness Tuft. This is better. So a dark green that's smaller tufts that's still like a very bright green, so that when I put a lighter green dry brush, that'll be perfect. So you can see the difference in these colors. You just kind of have to figure out which one works best. Like this one is olivey, this one is yellowy, and then this one is a darker, more vibrant green. So we'll use that. We'll use the Wilderness Tuft. And I think that's shorter too. That's a 4mm. That's a 6. Yeah, these are 6s. So this is also a shorter tuft, so I like that too. Sometimes the long ones are very, very springy. I probably should get more 4mm tufts because I think they're more in scale a lot of the time. Alrighty. Right there. Yeah. Excellent. Okie dokie. So these are short. They look like kind of a rich turf, which is what I want. And they kind of are already in masses on this this plastic. There are definitely places where they're clumping up and not clumping up as much. You can use that to your advantage. Yep. Yes, you can. You can, I tend to use a knife for that. I tend to pin it and pull it. But I also, like, just out the gate, when I've got this amount of variety, I'll usually just reach for a tuft group that is about the size I want. Yep, we did a bit of the water. I want to actually get in there on that water a little bit. Let me see how it is. Yeah. So I'm going to take my knife a little bit and poke at the water. And what I'm doing is kind of just pulling up a little bit. It's a little bit too cured for me to really, really pull it up, but I can pull up little bits of it. Little bits of this water. Yeah, if I wanted to really make some big splashes, I would have had to tackle it earlier. But there are little splooshes coming up. You can see kind of the little sploosh thread and the little pouncy one there. Maybe lean it forward a little bit. The one up here looks good. Gonna mess up that bottom of that a little bit more. And I want to do this because it's gonna, I want it less stringy up here so that I can paint it, stipple it with just a little bit of white. Because I don't want it to be shiny necessarily. And if I poke it and rough it up a little bit, it looks like more droplets coming down and less like, you know, like a thread of goop. So, and because it's mostly dry, I just use my X-Acto knife tip for that. Okay, let's look for a nice chunk. I think I'm going to grab this nice chunk out here. Piece of grass. Flop it off. And of course it's shedding everywhere because that's what static grass does. Pop it onto there. It still looks way out of scale. It's so springy. It's so long. Look how long that is. So right away, what I want to do is give it a little haircut. Are my scissors up to this? We'll find out. That's pretty much the first half of the stream, I think, Richard. It's the water. I'm just going to trim down those biggy, springy parts. I'm not going to be real precise about it because I want the grass to still look pretty random. You can see that it's coming off on my scissors here. And then that's going to make it a little bit shorter. Now let's see. Yeah, that's much better. Now it's not nearly as like over the top. I can still put some of this back toward there. I'm going to kind of put it into position and I'll glue it down and then adjust it a bit. But I should be able to squish this all into a mass that looks about right. The water is partially just painting in line with visual reference, Richard, and then putting a little bit of Woodland Scenics water effects at key points. All right, let's get some Zapagat. I like to use a thinner glue for this because it lets me put a finer bead down. And when you're using actual just static grass, not in clumps, it's much better to use a more fluid glue. I could probably stick this on with gel. With the tufts, it would be fine. But this is kind of the amount of time, if you're doing a nice base, you're going to spend some time on it. Don't just phone it in. There we go. All right. Put on this nozzle so I could get finer control. I'm going to put just a little bit of glue up here. Specifically around the areas I want. Where is my, there they are. Plop it on, try to scooch it around. Scooch it around and press it down till you have it where you want it. And I'm going to still pluck bits off of this, depending on how it goes, like this bit back here. This bit back here is very much like hanging out of nowhere. I'll grab my side cutters and pluck that. Yeah, I think the 2mm would be better. I don't know about, like, the moss texture can be a little bit, like, on 15mm it looks right. It would look okay on here, it would just probably look more like moss than grass. Got my scissors in there and kind of played with that. And I'm also going to take my scissors out here where these long threads are hanging off, and I'm going to just trim them. Boop. Kind of see where I've got some threads that are just hanging out that can be thrown off. Looking pretty good. It's already very solidly on there, except for this back part. This back part needs a little help. A little bit more glue on the back part. A little bit extra glue on there, so I take that off. And if I see a part that isn't working really well, I can pull it off over here. Just grab it, pluck it. That's solid. I'm going to have to let that cure. Because we got a bit of glue on that back there, so we're just going to let it set. Oh, I've got scorched colored. Yeah. Anything that's dark enough. The ones that I never use are the lighter colors, Agent Marble. The colors that I use are, this is the absolute lightest green that I use, usually, I would say. Otherwise I would have gone with one of my lighter greens. I really love these for like wintry or dark kind of burnt grass. These are the wasteland colored. All the ones I showed earlier. I really like the Highland Tuft is the burnt grass tuft. I use that one a lot in winter grasses. If the nice thing about this dark green one is that I can dry brush it with lighter greens and still have that dark base to it, which I really like. So honestly, for a lot of like summer grasses or out in the wilderness grass, I'll use the dark green one. I use the scorched one a lot. I have a winter one that's like dusted with snow and frost. I haven't actually ever used that one. It might be interesting to use it at some point. I would still dry brush it, but it would only with white. But yeah, the grasses that I have that I don't use are usually like the light green ones because dry brushing them doesn't just do as much. I could have used this one. I would dry brush it with a light yellow, like lemon yellow, and like a cream, like creamy ivory or Osterian sand, and then it would be okay. But it's a very light colored grass, very light. I think a little too light for me. I tend to like my grasses to be a little darker so that I can dry brush them effectively. So medium green is as dark as I go. But I do use several different colors. Though the most common are that really dark green with the kind of beige uppers, the this color, and then the burnt grass. Because any deserty or dried out or winter thing, that burnt grass is great for brown grass, for dead grass. And then if I want something that's kind of like an arid environment, but like rocky, I would use the dark green, and I just would bring it up with more subtle colors. And then if you want something summery, that's when I reach for this. Or, as you know, my turf mix that I use that has static grass in it is about this color. And I'm probably going to use a little bit of that in here also. But I'm going to grab another grass tuft. But yeah, so because dry brushing means you're going lighter, starting with darker grasses makes sense. This one, I think. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of tufts. Often I find they look too artificial, but if I combine them with my turf and some other effects, usually I can make them work. I might grab this and just take part of it off. We'll see. Come here, little grass. Yeah, this is too big. Too big. Even the 4mm grass needs a haircut. Giving them haircuts can be kind of fraught. Because it's so tiny. It's so tiny. Now it looks like a tribble. Yeah, and it's more than usually paint my tufts or flocking. I almost always paint my tufts and flocking. Because I don't like the look of it raw. I don't think it looks right with the model. I'm going to try to trim this a little bit more on the model. But yeah, the uniform color doesn't really go with the whole everything else is painted so nicely. It tends to just look incorrect. So I'm going to paint it for sure. Come here, guy. Where's my, there it is. Boop. I feel like that could work. I think I am going to grab a tuft of that off to use over on the other side. And you can just rip them apart as an RSed. Yeah. Ah. It does tend to be silly. Uh-oh. Okay, the side cutter's done. Sometimes my little hemostats aren't enough. Sometimes we need our side cutters to come up and be the tweezers. It wants to fight. It's like, no, I do not want to go onto that little projection. I am a rebel tuft. There it is. rebel tuft has been tamed. All right, tiny tuft needs to go right over here where it is. Boop. Tiny tuft is very silly too. Everybody is silly today. Tiny tuft. Cute. They are cute. Now I need to put some more greenery that's not obnoxious grass though. So which is why we're going to get my mix at this point. We are going to need to let everything else dry a bit. Alright. I'm going to combine these tufts with a bit of my organic mix, which is more this color. I'm going to have to wait until they dry a bit so that I'm not like just super gluing everything on top of them if I want to put little bits around it. So we are going to wait and tackle some of these rocks. Although we're already over time, so maybe we'll have to do rocks and flocking and fixing the foot and more grass and flocking back here, I think. But we'll put more organic grass around these just kind of to blend them in and make them look a little bit better. It's coming along. Obviously we need to still dry brush these, the little tufts, and once we get the flock on, we'll also do a little bit of painting on the flock. But we've got some green. Our water actually is coming along, came along really well. We didn't get to actually painting it. I can see a little bit of gloss on it. And so I will be painting it, but we'll save that for next time. I know you guys can't probably see it. Oh, I just pinned through it. It's always a problem when you're going through a very thin foot, but because the heel is raised, I had to go through the front of the foot. But it just means there's a little notch on the top, and that means I cut that off and probably just fill it with a little bit of gloss sealer and paint over it, and nobody will ever see it. And the fact that you can't even tell from where you are is that I had to point it out means that it's minimal. Not a concern. I think one thing I'm going to need to do is maybe get some water effects or gloss or something. There's a little bit of a gap between the stone here and the water. And I guess that could be just that there's a little bit of a, like you could say there's a little bit of a undercut there or something, but it's annoying me a little bit now that I see it. Everything else is really flat to the base. But the waterfall turned out well. He's looking good. I don't like to do it quantum, so that's why I didn't do it. It bothers me. If I know it, if I can see it, and I can see it, it bothers me. I would rather risk popping through the top of the foot and just doing a little touch-up. At least then I know the pin is really secure. But then I don't fear sculpting or green stuff. Like I would so much rather have to do that than actually know that there's a pin showing. Yeah. It's just, every painter's different, right? The things that bug you are going to be totally different from the things that bug me. So I chose to do that, knowing the consequences. Plus, remember on here, it's a teaching opportunity. As I fix that, you'll just see me fix it. It's like, it's a way to show people when you do this, because inevitably you will drill through a part. This is how you fix it. So yeah, I think that the water is looking the way I had hoped it would look. So now it's just painting over the glossy effects that we did and making them matte so that they don't conflict with the NMM. And then once all of that super glue dries, we'll be able to come back next time and add more flocking in little bits all around on this area, and make that grass blend in a lot more, and then paint all of the basing materials. Bring up the stone if we still need to, yeah, I think it looks cool. So it's what I wanted it to look. I like that you see when you turn face on, you can see the stone projecting out there like I wanted. So yeah, I like it. And then this side you get the shield. The only thing we could do is the back of his cape could have some freehand. It's not something I usually like to do after I have the model on the base. It would help the back of the model to be more interesting. I just have to question whether I'm willing to do that with this model or not. Most people will be looking at it from the front. And the back is really just kind of like there. And I'm okay with that, because obviously I've got a waterfall coming from nowhere, because the base cuts off. So yeah, it is what it is. So there we go. But otherwise, overall, compositionally, I'm very happy with this piece. I really like how it's looking. It was worth doing the big base for him. I like this model a lot, so I was glad to do the big base for once. Okay, tomorrow we are, speaking of big bases, tomorrow we are on to his Edliness. His Royal Edliness is back. And we were working with various things and crumbled up cork to create more of an illusion of how the space is coming together. It is, as I mentioned, very difficult because you've got a really flat top on this base, but hopefully we can dress it up and make it look more interesting. So we'll be doing, again, a lot of base work, trying to disguise and work in, just figure out how we want this base to come together, and what we're going to probably put. We're going to use a lot of dead grass on this one, actually. Yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, if I was doing it for competition, I would absolutely have done freehand on the bottom of the cape, just something simple. But, But yeah, that's the difference between, if I did everything on this stream for competition, every model would take, twice to 3 times as long. Because it would just be, I would be that much more persnickety about it all. And it would become very boring to watch very quickly. That's the thing. Because most of painting for competition is just futzing. It's just futzing. It's how much futzing you do. And futzing is usually not super fun to watch. So yeah. Alright, so we're back to Ed tomorrow. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed watching me paint the water. Again, it's something I've never done before, but I figured we could do it. At this point, I'm pretty confident in my freehand painting skills. And I thought we could probably make it look good, and I was correct. Yay! It's probably the best water I've done, actually, as far as just, realism. Looking like water. I feel like it's pretty good. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Quindy, for hanging out on the stream with everyone. Yeah. Yep, I will be back tomorrow, and I hope you all have a lovely day. Thanks. Bye-bye.